How much are we investing in marketing? It's around 1 to 2% of revenue. No department is putting that value or that emphasis on marketing. One person cannot handle all four aspects because it's impossible. Unicorns don't exist. You can't measure success if you don't have a measurement.
Marketing, like a symphony, is a harmonious blend of instruments, but without the proper direction, it's just noise. Welcome to the Supply Chain Marketing Show, presented by Supply Chain Brain Media. From the art of storytelling to the science of data, we'll uncover marketing strategies that drive success. Sales wins deals, marketing builds demand. Marketing has long been overlooked in the supply chain and logistics industry. Mia Mazal, co-founder of Talento, explains why marketing has historically been underestimated, and she'll provide questions logistic leaders should be asking when seeking marketing support. Now here's your Supply Chain Marketing Show host, guide, and logistics leading literacy leader, Ralph Henderson.
Does marketing even matter in supply chain, or is it just noise? Slides, slogans, and spend that never seems to move the needle. Today's episode is called Why Marketing in Logistics and Supply Chain Feels Useless, and why it isn't. And if you've ever believed that great execution alone should drive growth, you're not alone. But you might be missing the real advantage. Because here's the truth. Sales closes, but marketing compounds. If sales is the engine, then marketing is the fuel. And in logistics and the supply chain space, trust is built long before the first call ever happens. In this conversation, we're unpacking why marketing has been misunderstood in supply chain for so long and why just hiring a marketer often fails, and how growth breaks down when marketing, sales, and operations aren't aligned. You'll walk away knowing what marketing actually means for a logistics company, what questions to ask before you invest, and when it's right or wrong, and the time to do so. Hi, I'm Ralph Henderson, your host of the Supply Chain Marketing Show, brought to you by Supply Chain Brain Media. I'm joined by Mia Mazal, co-founder of Talento, a global people-first leader helping supply chain companies build embedded outcome-driven marketing teams through nearshore talent. Mia brings a rare mix of strategic clarity, operational understanding, and real-world results. And today, she's here to challenge how this industry thinks about growth. Let's get into it. Welcome, Mia.
Hey, Ralph. Thanks for having me on today. Super excited.
No, it's our pleasure. I mean, one of the things that I love that you do is the whole labor side of what we do in supply chain marketing. You know, people think about the different elements of marketing and branding and content development and online strategy and certainly lead generation and earned media. But sometimes we forget, hey, we need the right people doing this stuff. We need the right strategists. I think one of the things you bring to the table is helping us to understand that. So I have some questions for you, and I can't wait for our audience to hear and see these. So to you, what is the core marketing problem you see most often in supply chain and logistics companies? And why does marketing so frequently miss expectations in this space?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems that exists is that we just don't care. In this industry, people don't care about marketing, They don't see the value in it. They don't think it's going to actually push the needle, and they don't think it's worthwhile to invest in. I've actually did a little bit of research, and you can see across industries, most companies invest around 7% of their revenue into their marketing budget, which is already a low number as is. But if you take a look at supply chain, and in this industry specifically, how much are we investing in marketing? It's around 1 to 2% of revenue. That's it. Super low. So for me, in my perspective, one of the biggest problems is that we're just not paying attention to marketing. We're not valuing it, which means we're not putting in effort to actually creating a map or a game plan that actually brings something, some outcome, some value to us. And to answer your second question, where is that misalignment happening? It's within marketing and sales and all the departments and teams involved in an organization. if no department is putting that value or that emphasis on marketing and giving them a chance to even speak up or bring their perspectives to the table, then no wonder why it's falling on deaf ears and no action is actually being taken. So I think it's that very simple step that if we actually gave them the time of day and actually listened to them for a few seconds, then maybe we would start to value them more and then work on creating internal alignment to making marketing something that does bring value and push the needle for our organization.
Man, oh man, 1 to 2%. I got chills when you said that. I got to tell you. And it's fascinating because I know that the folks that are listening and watching this that are out there, we love marketing. When we buy something, we're buying it because we're emotionally connected to whatever the product is. So we do love it. I think it's more, and I love what you're bringing to the table, more of an understanding of how we do it and how committed we are. I would love for somebody who's watching this to do an experiment in the next 12 months is to do what you said. Put 7% into the marketing, create a strategy for it, bring media into the equation and see how that goes versus what we've been doing in the past with what you were talking about. So thank you so much for that. So the next question is, why do marketing hires fail so often in supply chain organizations, even when leadership knows growth is a priority?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a big thing I say oftentimes with my team is that marketing is not a person. Marketing is a list of functions. So you need to, from that list of functions, then create job descriptions. And a title or a hard skill on paper might not be the best reflection of what you're actually looking for. I deal with this all the time where people will come to my door and say, "Hey, Mia, I need marketing." And I ask them, what does that mean to you? For one person, it might mean just graphic design. For another person, it might mean opening up a Facebook and LinkedIn page. For somebody else, it might be paid ads. Either way, all those profiles and those skill sets are completely different individuals, completely different functions. And so if you don't have that understanding and clarity of what are the functions you need and how they all interact with each other, well, no wonder why you come to the table, you ask for marketing and you don't get marketing and there's a mismatch there. So I think that's foundation that you need to understand. What does marketing mean? What does a lead mean? How do we get to that? And then break down every single piece, very detailed, and understand how they all interact to finally create the bigger picture.
Such a pragmatic view that I think we need to have in this space. And I love that you said marketing is not a person, it's a list of functions. It's the person who then executes that list of functions.
Mhm.
So that I think that's really, really insightful of you.
For sure.
So let's ask this. Why is the mindset of just send us a marketer so risky as it relates to what we were just talking about? And how does hiring the wrong role slow or stall the growth?
For sure. I mean, if you're investing in a person, and this can also be outside of marketing too, but in marketing specifically, if you invest in somebody and you're just guessing, right? You're not sure exactly what they're going to do or what outcomes they're going to give you, then it's a very expensive guess to make, just trying to put a random person into a role. So it's super important to understand what those functions are and that there's a difference between soft skills and hard skills, excuse me. And also there's also a difference between finding someone that already has the expertise or having someone learn the expertise as they're on your team and growing along your side. Again, it comes down to what does your business already have created and how can we actually create a plan with metrics. So based off those measurement tools, you can really understand what success looks like and what it doesn't look like. If you just put somebody in a role and you expect to see success, but you never actually gave them a job description or you never define what they're doing and how they're going to get to that goal, then no wonder why not only do they feel like they failed in the role, but that feels like a failure to you and your organization. It's a huge problem I see in not just marketing, in any role when there's a miscommunication and just a misunderstanding of yourself and your needs and your wants, which are two different things.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that is so spot on. And I love the fact that you're talking about what the role is of that person. And really, in addition to that, for the people who are watching, is where are they in the organization? A lot of times we don't really give them a lot of weight or credibility or what we call a seat at the table.
Right.
It's just too important of a position to not be a part of that. So thank you for giving the audience something to chew on as it relates to where they fit and how they do what they do. So why, and this is so important in the supply chain space because so often the solution providers have one person teams, where they're responsible for all of the marketing for the solution provider. And we applaud them, quite frankly, because that's no easy feat. But the question then becomes, why does the one person marketing model break down in the supply chain, especially as the industry becomes more competitive and more complex?
Yeah. I mean, I think a big piece that it makes me question why we're doing what we're doing is this upcoming year. About over 85% of supply chain leaders are saying that they're going to invest in AI this year. But why is nobody investing more in marketing? And these one-man shows, right? These marketing teams with just one person is expected to turn around every single channel and every single piece under marketing, all those lists of functions we talked about. I like to break it up into four very simple parts: the creation of the content, the actual implementation of the content, the strategy to understand what success is and what it isn't, and then actually analyzing how did it go? Did it go well or did it not go well? One person cannot handle all four aspects. And if you even want to go further into detail, if we just take the creation piece, designer, a graphic designer, that might be a still photo, which is very different than a video editor who is going to create some other kind of content. So now I'm even within one huddle breaking it down more and more and more. So to back to the question, right? Why are these one marketing person teams struggling? Well, because it's impossible. Unicorns don't exist. They need to have a team around them. And more so than a team, they need to have decision-making influence. If they're not at that table and they can't make decisions, they don't have control of the budget, they can't invest more in other tools or hire more team members to help them actually create more output, well, then their hands are tied and they can only do what they're being told by someone externally who doesn't understand what they should be doing. So again, we fall into this misalignment of the one who's pointing fingers and telling somebody else to do doesn't know, and the one who is silent and can't really, speak, or their words aren't being listened to, can make a decision. And now we're kind of in this unbalance and back and forth of pull and take.
We'll be back after this brief message.
In today's complex supply chain, marketing has never been more critical. But are you leveraging the full potential of your marketing efforts? Supply Chain Brain Media created 2 resources to help you discover what's new and what works. The Supply Chain Marketing Group series is designed to educate you on services and how to implement them into your marketing program. On the Supply Chain Marketing Show, hear firsthand how experts are implementing the elements from the 5 rings of supply chain marketing to drive results. Ready to elevate your marketing game? Schedule a 30-minute consult today. Email Morgan at supplychainbrainmedia.com. Supply Chain Brain Media, your guide to marketing success.
And now back to our show.
Yeah, I got to tell you, my stomach got like all nauseous when you were talking about all the different parts, the 4 different parts, because I can promise you I don't do that. If I had to do that, we'd be in trouble, right? So yeah, no, I totally get that. And again, I applaud those folks that are out there doing it. But really what it comes down to is how much of a priority is this, right?
Right.
I mean, how much do you care, want to invest in it or what have you? So let me ask you this. So where do project-based marketing efforts like websites or one-off campaigns fall short when companies are trying to build sustainable growth?
Yeah, I think the problem is that sometimes people see, let's take the example of a website, as a short win or as a channel that as soon as you have it live and moving, that it's going to start bringing you leads. And it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Your website is like your foundation. It's like your name, where if I want to go figure out who Ralph is, I know that he's a real person because his name and his face is on Supply Chain Brain's website, right? It's a statement of credibility and a way to just make sure we're real. But then after that, it's still our job to socialize, to spread awareness, to educate what it is that what our solution is and how our solution can be of value to that audience member. It's incorporating things like keywords and digital GIFs or artifacts that are on your website, also tying in specific hyperlinks and things of that nature. That is something that's constant and ongoing. A simple example, SEO, which is search engine optimization, is using the right words that people like you and I might put into Google to look for an answer, and using those same words on our website. But to this last year, we've seen that's changed tremendously. Now you have to optimize yourself within AI search engines, which is a completely
Right.
new wheelhouse. So if you
Right.
made a website and in 3 months someone gave you a website and you think that that website's going to bring you all these leads, well, it's completely out of date now. And those processes are matching up to what the industry is needing. So I think that for projects and outsourcing projects like a website, or maybe getting your social medias off, the ground and actually have a face, is step number one. But if you think that that only step is going to bring you everything you're looking for afterwards, it's not going to. It's just step one for the long-term game.
No, that's right. Yeah, spot on. And look, I appreciate, everything you're doing. And we tell folks all the time who watch this and what have you, these are not sales initiatives. You didn't pay anything to me to be on here. I didn't pay anything for you to be here. You're here because Supply Chain Brain feels like Talento and Mia Mazal brings value to the industry. And then you feel like Supply Chain Brain is somebody who's giving back philanthropically to the space. And so I just want the audience to know the arrangement here, so that everybody understands how this works. But having said that, the reason I did reach out to you, in doing the research on Talento and obviously knowing you now for the last few years, I did like how you guys approach the supply chain marketing professional, all of the construct, if you will, of what marketing means in logistics and supply chain, and how you find people who do that. So this question is specifically about your company. How does Talento approach the marketing differently as it relates to all that, by starting with the outcomes and the team structure instead of just the titles?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest values that we've had, and some might see it like a weakness, but I saw it as a value, is that we learned as we went. We didn't come in with an expert that had 35 years of experience and was telling us the way that marketing should be done. The funnel has completely changed. Some argue that the funnel is dead. So our lack of
I
knowledge,
agree.
right? So our lack of knowledge and the lack of, already being put into a box actually helped us just kind of trial and error and figure it out as we went. So with that said, we noticed a lot, and it's a little bit obvious. We're on the younger side. I'm a little bit on the younger side in this industry, right? So trying a little bit more modern or younger tactics that actually seem to resonate really well with this industry. The first and foremost being credibility. Just having a name, having a brand, showing face. I post a lot on LinkedIn. I don't like photos, but I post a lot on LinkedIn because now people know that I'm a real person. And even though you haven't met me, I'm not AI, I'm not a robot. And it's something that today and day, this really, really matters. And going from there, we were able to notice that credibility was one of the most important measurements and factors when it came to our success. So for me, in measuring marketing, it's not the amount of leads that marketing brings to me every month. It's one of our measurements is actually quantity, and how much are we growing our social media and getting more engagement, more organic engagement on our posts. So my neighbor who maybe is in the sales department might not see more value in a higher follower count and might be frustrated because we don't have any inbound leads through our website. But at the same time, this is actually creating a value. So in 3 months, when my sales rep does go to an event, everyone's going to know who she is. Everyone's going to reach out to her, and it's going to be that much easier to book emails as opposed to if we had never done that farming and that marketing kind of baseline or foundation. So my point is that super important to understand what success means to you. It might be different than what it is to your neighbor, and it might change in 6 months from now. But if you don't have that understanding and that clarity, nothing is going to feel good enough because we don't have instant gratification in marketing. Marketing is a compounding effect. It's a long-term win, and it needs to be combined with sales, which is those shorter-term wins.
No doubt. I mean, if you don't have a target, there's 100% chance you're not going to hit it. So yeah, I really like how you guys do what you do. So here's an interesting question for the supply chain people out there that are looking for positions in marketing, that are looking for people to help them in marketing, and what you do that's a bit cool. And that is, why does nearshoring make it possible for supply chain companies to build specialized embedded marketing teams that really build growth?
Yeah, this is something I'm very passionate about. Our entire marketing team is made out of the same talent that we offer to our customers. So something about Talentos, we are very tailored in our process, very personalized. We don't just come in and say, hey, what role are you looking for? Oh, you need a community manager. Here's a community manager. No. We need to understand your goals, your current processes, your current context, your tools, your budget, all those things, and just speak with you. Because in that back-to-back conversation, we understand that you might have an interpretation of what you need, but the reality of what you need is actually a little bit different. So for me, what's special is that we consult our customers. We're able to guide them based off what we've seen worked well and what hasn't worked well. And from there, tailor out a job description, do a whole process for sourcing and vetting, really making sure we're finding the right profile, and then allowing a last filter be based off personality and match, because that's going to be, if not more important than the hard skills. You can't teach personality, but you can teach hard skills. So we identify and we incorporate all that into the process. We handle it on behalf of our customer. And at the end of the day, they get to make the ultimate decision and say who joins their team. And it can be anything from something very junior with no experience to someone that's been around for years, someone that does have supply chain and logistics experience and already understands your audience and your channels. All that is very important to detail and understand for each organization. Is that a need? Is that a want? Does it fit in your budget? And from there, finalize and actually identify, do you need a head? Do you need multiple heads? Do you need a project-based kind of relationship first? And then we can move on to full-time, committed, growing employees, or however that looks like. That's where we come in to help map it out.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that's fantastic, because for the folks that are listening and what have you, it's good to know that I have those options. So if I have a trade show coming up, or if I have some, client experience event coming up, or if I want to put together a strategy for a year-long media type of initiative, I can bring somebody in to do a project, somebody in to do that, versus bringing them in full-time and making them part of the team, but then take all those other things into account. So really, really good stuff. So here's what I would love for you to wrap with is, what is it that the audience needs to remember? Like, what is it that walking away from this vodcast, they need to remember about what we've talked about in the last 21 minutes? And then what is it that they need to do right now to make listening to this applicable and valuable?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing, and I reiterate this with my team all the time, is that you can't measure success if you don't have a measurement. You need to have clarity in terms of what you are looking for. If you are not on the marketing team and you expect marketing to report to you, what are you expecting to see from them? If you are on the marketing team and you're part of that management, what are you expecting to see from your colleagues? What outcomes are you expected to turn into sales? If you don't have clarity on what success means to you, you will never feel success. I think that's the most important. And in terms of what can you do right now, the most simple thing that you could start, and this is what I like to do in my spare time as well, is ask a friend. Phone a neighbor. We have brokerages, for example, sitting side by side, and they're competitors, but they can also learn so much from each other. So I would encourage whoever's listening to go and talk to somebody either within their organization or in a neighboring organization. Just ask them what they're doing and what they're seeing. It's going to start to lay the foundation and some of the context to understand some of the questions that you should ask, because you don't know what you don't know. And ultimately, if you can also lean on or talk to an expert, someone like myself, someone like Ralph, or someone else that you know, go there, talk to them, figure out what it is that you think that you need, take that information to them, and really work on tailoring out what that strategy looks like, what that process looks like, and bring it back to the first question, right? What are your metrics and your measurement to make sure that they're actually showing success and bringing value to the table?
Wow. And I love that. Yes, that's so good, because we do need to come together. We do need to have that abundance minded mentality where, we do all need to help one another. You and I are perfect examples of that. That's what we're doing here right now. And then your first part on the memory, I always tell people content is still king, but clarity is queen. So if you have clarity, they can give you the content. Right? The better the clarity, the better the content.
Right.
So I really appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. Look, folks, Mia has provided us with a wealth of information, and we will certainly give you ways to get a hold of her so you can reach out to her. For supply chain marketing professionals, I highly recommend you talk to somebody like Mia. And for those who are looking for those folks, we need to come together, because I'm counting on all of you to make the supply chain more powerful, more effective in the way of supply chain marketing, so we can implement media programs where we can be just as powerful as some of those other organizations that are really well known, very well branded, and there's no reason we can't do that. But we do have to understand what are the functions, who are the people that can do them, and then let's execute them. Because look, as supply chains get more competitive and more crowded and more complex, growth can't rely on just working harder, calling more, knocking louder anymore. The companies that win are the ones that get clearer, more visible, and more trusted before the conversation ever starts. So, as you think about what you're building next, your team, your message, your momentum, here's a question worth asking. Instead of knocking on doors, how about they knock on yours?
To discover how you can blend your marketing instruments into a harmonious sound and rise above the noise, schedule a 30-minute consultative session. Email morgan@supplychainbrainmedia.com. Again, that email address is morgan@supplychainbrainmedia.com. If you have any questions or episode suggestions, you can send those to morgan@supplychainbrainmedia.com. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Supply Chain Marketing Show, presented by Supply Chain Brain Media. This is an omni-channel production in conjunction with PWE Media.